Good afternoon. We're going to do the watch list for the week of May 4th. We're going to start with the bullish side, which is going to be Roku. They have earnings Thursday after hours, so we probably won't be playing much Roku until the earnings reaction, but I'm going to have Roku up, but it has a gap to fill down at 97. I would imagine it's probably going to run into earnings like Netflix did. I don't think it'll be as strong. So, if it gets over the 115, I would look for it to test the 130s again. Maybe even get a breakout and get above that, because if it does manage to get into the 135 area, it's going to create a cup and handle on the daily, and it could make it pop to 140, even 150. But I think it could possibly run into earnings, and I'm not quite sure how earnings will be, but we'll play the reaction to it on Friday. So that's what I'm expecting on that. But if it does drop more, it could probably come down and fill the gap. But I have a feeling it's probably going to run into earnings, but I could be wrong. Next one is NVDA. Can't seem to type it right. Okay, there we go, finally. NVIDIA, it's on the daily. You can see right here, it bounced off the middle kill, and it's bouncing off the RC trend line. So, if it can get some momentum going and get over the 285, 286 area, look for it to fill the gap, to maybe even retest the 300 area again. So, I do like that it bounced off the middle kill. But that is the third time. Usually the more times it bounces off it, the higher probability it's going to fall apart. But the semiconductors are strong considering the market's been down. So I think that it should bounce. But we'll see. If it gets over the 286, I'll look at it more. Next one is Walmart. Walmart, you can see the volatility in Walmart. And, I like Walmart because it's the stochastics is showing oversold, and it got down to close to the RC trend line, so it could bounce off that like it has and keep going and build momentum and fill the gap into the 130. So if it gets over 124, I would look for it to fill the gap and get to at least the 128 to even 130s on the on Walmart. Let me get the arrow, the thing off. There we go. Next one is HD Home Depot. Home Depot is strong considering the market's been selling, so I think that it could retest this 225. So I would watch it over the 220 for 225, and if it gets over to 225, it's got some gaps up here into the 235. So it can fill that gap if it does get any momentum, and especially if the market's strong. But even if the market's weak, Home Depot's been holding up pretty well, so I do like that if it gets over those levels. Johnson & Johnson is another one. It's doing the same thing. It's bouncing right off the middle kill on the daily, so it's gets over the 149. It's over the 149. Look for it to retest the 152, fill the gap into the 155. So Johnson & Johnson's been strong because of the coronavirus stuff. So I would I'd keep an eye on that. Now on the short side, if the market's weak or these things don't do very well in earnings, like I have Shack. So I would imagine Shack's probably going to get clobbered in earnings, considering that they're probably only doing drive-through. They probably lost a lot of revenue because there's only so much people you can help and drive through. They're missing the people coming in. So at least half their revenue is going to be gone. So I'm anticipating that the ER is going to be bad. The ER is Monday after hours, so I would watch for probably a reaction to the earnings on Tuesday morning for probably a short. Probably it could come down and fill this gap down here at 33. So just be mind that if it does drop, that you get a gap down here around in the $34, $35 area. So I would watch shack for earnings reaction. BA is another one. Boeing, and news came out this weekend that maybe it was Friday. I don't know. One of the couple days ago that Buffett is dumping all his airline shares, and it's not too confident in airlines. So BA is probably going to fall apart. All the airlines, United, UAL, and DAL, Delta. So watch the airlines tomorrow. And BA probably, it's got this little trend line at 126. It gets below that, it could get down to the hundreds again. I mean, it's got a little bit of support at 121, but below that, it's got 100. So I would watch BA. And if BA gets under 100 again, I'll probably grab another debit spread again for a couple of years out, because BA's, I mean, regardless of what happens to the airlines, BA is a big military contractor, and they provide a lot of airplanes and stuff for the military, and they're not going to go under, and they will save them, and they'll get back on their feet eventually, and the airlines will go back pretty much back to normal, I guess, in a year or two. So, I mean, if it gets under 100, it might be something to look at for a couple of years out. But Boeing, I'm looking for a drop based on what's been going on. Apple's another one. I mean, all the big earnings have pretty much are done. There's a couple more this week, but I mean, all the FANGs are pretty much done. Amazon, Google, Facebook, Netflix. I mean, all of them are pretty much already done. So the market's probably going to end up selling off. So I'm looking at Apple under 288, and I'm just looking at. I mean, it's got a gap down here to 245. I mean, it'd have to be a pretty big fall for that. But I mean, I'm at least looking at maybe 270 this week. So I mean, under 288 to 280 to even the 270 area for Apple. So keep an eye on Apple. Disney has earnings on Tuesday after hours. And I mean, Disney, its earnings are going to be very mixed because the theme parks are down. They lost a lot of money with the theme parks being closed, the cruise lines being closed, but they can make it up with the Disney Plus with subscribers. So I would think that the earnings is going to be probably mixed. They'll probably have bad earnings, but they'll probably release some kind of guidance or press release saying that subscribers are up or viewership is up or something like that will save it. So Disney will be watching for reaction on Wednesday morning. So definitely watch that. Tesla, we had an amazing trade on Tesla on Friday. Looking at Tesla for more downside to fill the gap. So I would say under the 700 to fill, possibly even come down here and fill this gap into the 575. So I don't think there's anything really good news for Tesla right now because of Elon Musk tweeting saying that the stock is bloated too high and going I don't know, crazy or whatever. Who knows what he did, but that's not going to be too confident for investors with Tesla. So I'm looking at Tesla more downside under 700, could fill the gap at 575, finish filling the gap at 650. So, and it's got some support right here in the 590 area, but that's how I feel in Tesla. Not unless you have some kind of news, but I think investors are kind of spooked about Elon Musk's comments and tweets and public behavior. So he's still a genius, but people do go crazy. Wayfair is another one. I mean, it's up here chopping around. It's got earnings Tuesday after hours, so I would imagine earnings would probably be pretty bad, but who knows? All these people that you think have bad earnings, they don't. They come back with some kind of miracle or have some kind of it's not as bad as we thought it would be, or some kind of lame projections or something like that, or expectations, and they manage to don't disappoint as much as they thought they would, and they end up popping. So I would watch Wayfair under 120, and it's got support right here into the 106, even down into the 95. And if things get really ugly, I mean, it could come down here into the 80s. So it's got a big gap down here at 60. I don't know if it'll get that far, but the last time I had earnings, it fell apart. And I think that there was one other time that it doesn't do very good on earnings. Let's see. I think there was, yeah, see right there. See the negative earnings, and that's before the coronavirus. So I would imagine that the earnings are probably going to be pretty bad. So I would keep an eye on Wayfair for an earnings reaction. Baidu is another one. Baidu is at this critical point right here at 95. Under 95, it's going to fill the gap to probably 90. I mean, if it is any momentum going, it could get down here even to the 83 area. So Baidu, it's at a critical point on the daily. So I would watch Baidu under, like I said, 90, 95. Next one's Facebook. Oops, Facebook. It did fill the gap right at 210 because I mentioned that last week when the ER that it could go up and retest that and fill that gap, and it did. So now it's got a gap below. And like I said, if the market's weak, Facebook's going to go down with it unless they have news. So I would watch Facebook under 199. If it gets under 199, I watch for a gap fill into the 195s, even to the 190s. So Facebook short. Costco is another. Costco's been very volatile, and the only reason I have Costco on the short side is because it's got a head and shoulders. You got a left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder. Gets under 300. It's probably going to come down here and test the 290s. So watch that on Costco, that setup. So it could pay off for a short. The setup's there. Shop has earnings on Wednesday, pre-market. And Shop has got the same kind of setup. You know, it's all like Wayfair. It's all consolidating up here. But Shopify is an online company. People, earnings could be pretty good. I don't know what the weekly looks like. Yeah, the weekly has been pretty. Yeah, so it's up there pretty high. It could end up being just an ER run up right up here and just chopping until ER, and it could end up selling off. So we'll have to watch Shop. I would like it under 600. I'm going to assume that it's going to not do well on earnings, but I mean, it's an internet company. It could do well, but I mean, it's gone from 300 to 650 in a month. So actually it went that far just in a couple weeks, and it's just been consolidating since. So I would watch it under 600 for a possible short. I probably won't touch it until after earnings, depending on what earnings is. So the other one is Clorox, CLX, and Clorox makes all bleach and stuff like that. So it's kind of got a descending wedge right here. Could be a possible bull flag. So I would watch Clorox under 192 to fill the gap and possibly find support right here in the 180, 186, and even down into the 180s. If it does manage to break out, I would take it over 197. But it's going to be all dependent on if the coronavirus starts getting in the news again and it starts getting worse. Then Clorox is probably going to end up taking off more because people are going to need bleach and they're going to need clean areas and stuff like that. So that's going to be pretty much news driven on Clorox. So depending on the news is going to depend on the direction. So if there's no news, it'll probably fall apart, and if there is news, it's going to pop. So that's going to do it for the watch list. I know the bearish side's pretty long, but it's mostly like earnings watches, and the main focus will probably end up being like BA and Tesla and probably Baidu tomorrow. So that's what I'll probably end up paying attention to the most, and possibly even Walmart. So that's going to be it for the watch list. I hope this helps, and that's going to do it. Thanks.